Hello, all my lovelies. Thank you so much for joining me on this lovely Sunday, and I am your hostess, Peyton. So, before I get this episode started, I would love to mention that I am now going to start doing missing persons reports that are recently happening or that have already happened, just to get their story out there, their name out there, so people know to look out for them and everything. And I'm going to give their details, what they were wearing, where they might have been, and to try and help these people be found and get home to their family. If you ever see something, do please say something. I will usually leave the phone number that you can call if you do have any information, or if you've seen something, just anything for that police department or sheriff's department, whatever it may be. And I will be doing every other episode with reports, so just keep a lookout for that. And for today's episode, I am also going to have to give a huge trigger warning because this case does involve very violent attacks and graphic imagery. So if you're not a fan of this episode, please skip. And there is talk about rape and stuff like that. So other than that, this is the phenomenal story of Alison Botha. Alrighty, December 18th, 1994, 27-year-old Alison Botha was hanging out with 4 or 5 of her friends at a fun day at the beach in Port Elizabeth in South Africa. They all came back to Alison's apartment after agreeing to come back after their, of course, hot day in the sun to enjoy some pizza and play some boulder dash. So a little background on Alison. In high school, she was very well liked by everyone. Like, she had so many friends. She was very confident, well-spoken. She was well liked by everyone, like I just said. She was an insurance broker for her job as well, which she absolutely loved. So that night, she had told one of her friends, Kim, that she would be more than happy to drive her home after all of her friends' get-togethers. So once she dropped Kim off, it was about 1 o'clock in the morning that Sunday. So Alison usually parks very close to her apartment during the night because, of course, you never know what's lurking around, the whole 10 yards. But this time, her convenient parking spot was taken, so she had to go find another parking spot, which, of course, it was in walking distance. So she found a spot under a big tree that could block the street light. So Alison was ready to go home and get in the nice cool shower after having a long day in the sun when all of a sudden she felt a warm gust of air hit her. Her driver's side door flung open and there was a tall, skinny man with blonde hair standing there in her car door. He demanded her to move over to the passenger side or he was going to kill her while he was holding a knife. So once Alison spotted that knife, and just like anyone else would, in my opinion, because I fucking would. I ain't messing with all that. Out of pure fear, she scooted over. And once he was in her car, he laid on the gas and he attempted to reassure Alison, saying, "I don't want to hurt you. I just want to use your car for an hour," which, that's weird as fuck, but go ahead. And what was Alison to do? Say no? So she let him use the car. She had a thought of jumping out of the moving car, but she was just so frozen in fear in that passenger seat that she couldn't even really move or breathe properly, but it wasn't noticeable, So she knew that something awful was going to happen. The man called himself Clint in the beginning. She begged him to let her out and he could just have the car, but he told her no. That sunken feeling in her stomach was stronger than ever when he told her no. Clinton told her that someone owed him money and that he would not be too long, so he drove the main streets of Port Elizabeth, also which is one of the largest cities in South Africa, and then he finally found the guy who had apparently owed him money, and he went and picked him up, and this man's name was Thenis. I think it's Thenis. I'm sorry if I mispronounce this. This sicko Clinton tells Venus, hey, meet my new friend Alison. So, once they picked up Venus, the three drove to the outskirts of Port Elizabeth to a very vacant place that her parents had always warned her to stay away from. And that's when she knew that nothing was going to end good. And this is where I'm going to have to slip in that trigger warning that I was talking about in the beginning. So if you're not ready for this, do skip this episode. So Clinton stopped the car behind a big bush and said that, I am going to make love to you. Are you going to fight back? And of course, being a very scared woman surrounded by two very large men, she didn't even know how to fight anyway, so she said no. After Clinton finished whatever he was doing, he looked at Venus and said, would you like to have sex with this young lady? Venus, being the sick bastard that he is, he told Clinton, no, I don't want to have sex with her. I'm going to fuck her. So after these disgusting creatures decided to rape her, they then attempted to suffocate her, which she only went unconscious. But while she was unconscious, Clinton stabbed her in the abdomen, 35 times, okay? So both men thought that Alison was dead until her leg twitched. When she twitched, that's when Venus took it upon his fucked up self and cut her throat from ear to ear 17 times. He cut her so deep that it almost hit her esophagus, about cut it off, open. So, with no surprise, of course, both of these men had a history of extreme violence towards women. And just when you would think that Alison was dead after the men left, Alison regained consciousness. Realizing what had happened to her, she told herself that I'm going to die. But she had a very, very powerful moment and thought of her mom. She knew she couldn't just give up, so she stood up. But before she stood up, she ended up writing both of the names of the people down, of the men down, that just did this horrendous act on her. And under that, she wrote, I love you, Mom, which is so fucking heartbreaking. But when she stood up, she started making her way back towards the main road. Alison thought to herself, at least if I'm close to the road, my mother would know that at least I died trying. While she was trying to walk to the road, fading in and out of consciousness, she went to feel her stomach, and when she did, she felt all the multiple holes and something slimy hanging out. And that's when she realized that her intestines were coming out of her stomach. So her being the smart fucking woman that she is, she was wearing a denim shirt. So she took it off, pushed her organs back in, and wrapped that shirt around her stomach to hold her intestines in. But I did also read in other articles that she used her hand to hold it in, so I'm not really sure, and with her other hand, she was holding her head up because it kept falling backwards from her being almost fucking decapitated. That is so unbelievably fucked up and very astounding that she honestly is able to even get up and walk after having to hold her head like that. That's so fucking crazy. She is such a strong woman. That is just, I don't know. Once Alison reached the road, she lied down in the middle of it. She thought to herself, at least if I'm in the road, the worst that could happen is that I'm just going to get ran over. So she wasn't really even worried about that. She's seen a few headlights going past, so she knew that road was kind of busy. While she was fading in and out, it didn't take anyone long to notice her laying in the middle of the road. And they pulled over, realizing what was wrong, what was happening. The man that rescued her, his name is, I would like to say it's Tyan Elard. He later told people that God put me on that road for a reason that night. So Tyan did the best he could, as gently as he could, to put her in his truck and drove her to the hospital. When they arrived, the doctors were so shocked by all of her terrifying wounds. A doctor named Alexander Angelov, I would like to say, even said that he's never seen such severe injuries in his 16 years of being in the nursing field, or doctor's field, sorry. And even after all this is so fucking sweet, I just can't. Tyan was still there. He never left that hospital until he heard that Alison was going to be okay. Like, he was there almost next to her, trying to be in the room with her just to make sure that she was okay. And that is fucking awesome. So, even though Alison was on the brink of death, she still pulled through and remembered everything about her attackers. She was later brought pictures by the police whilst she was still in the hospital. It was pretty much a lineup of like all these criminals so she could pick them out, you know. And Alison luckily was able to identify both of the men. These men went by the names of the Ripper Rapists in the press. So, okay, I'm going to try my best to pronounce these names because I don't know if I'm going to, but bear with me. The men who were identified are Franz du Toit, which that was Clinton, and Thenis, I want to say Kruger. So they both pled guilty to charges including kidnapping, rape, and attempted murder, and they were both sentenced to life in prison August 1995. But get fucking this. For some reason, after 28 years of being in prison, both Thenis and Franz were granted parole July of 2023. Literally a few fucking months ago, they were granted parole. So they are out and about, kind of being watched, but they are still not in prison no more. So, although the worst is behind Alison, she still suffered from physical and emotional scars. Soon after she started traveling the world telling her story, Alison was also known as the first woman to speak up about her traumatic experience. She helped inspire other survivors to tell their stories as well. In 1995, Alison won the prestigious Rotarian, I think that's how you say that, Rotarian Paul Harris Award for Courage Beyond the Norm, and Femina Magazine's Woman of Courage Award, as well as being awarded by Port Elizabeth becoming Citizen of the Year. That is just such fucking fantastic news that all of these people and all of these companies would give her such a great name for surviving something so fucking horrific, okay? Alison was also later gifted one of the best gifts that she could ever imagine. She gave birth to her two sons. Although she was stabbed 35 times in the stomach, Clinton miraculously missed his reproductive organs, which she stated later that during the attack, Franz had specifically tried to destroy her reproductive system. So at the end, Alison has such inspiring words for everyone and all these victims. She says, "Remind yourself that you do not have to take responsibility for what others do. Life is not a collection of what happens to you, but how you've responded to what has happened to you." And I'm going to put in some of my opinions here. Alison has done something that I don't even know if most of us had the courage to do. That is so fucking bizarre. Her intestines were hanging out. Her head was almost decapitated. And yet this fucking amazing woman finds the strength inside of herself, even though she's on the brink of death, to walk. Okay? After being stabbed and everything, 35 fucking times, she made her way up to that road to save herself so she could see the next day. That is so fucking insane. So, that is the phenomenal story of Alison Botha. She is such an icon and such a true inspiration. I hate what had happened to her, but I absolutely love the outcome of this. She bounced right back after something so awful just happened. But, unfortunately, that does conclude today's episode. So thank you so much for tuning into Mysteries of Insanity, and I really hope you guys enjoyed this one. Leave a like or a comment or whatever floats your boat on whatever platform you're listening to. And as always, have a lovely Sunday. See ya!